All right, we are recording. So welcome everyone. Welcome to the 5 Keys of a Flourishing Organization. My name is Brandon Peel, and I'm going to be guiding you through today. But to do that, I'm going to go ahead and share screens and show you a few kind of orienting elements here to get us going. All right. So today we're going to explore these 5 keys, and you'll start to see really just the subtle tweaks that organizations make to have everybody flourish. And what I mean by flourishing is where everything's working, meaning organizations are making the impact they're out to make financially, societally, environmentally, where people love the culture, they love the team, they feel like they're able to bring their whole self to work. And then I'm going to spend a little bit of time at the end just talking about Elevate for a second. So just be warned, there's going to be a 3-minute like, hey, look at Elevate, here's how we do it. And for those of you who stick with us to the end, I have a free gift for you as well. So some ground rules for today. This is a conversation. So ask questions and comment verbally. Just, interrupt me. Be like, hey, I got a question. That doesn't make sense. What's your source? I disagree. All that is welcome. But if you're not speaking, I request that you mute yourself so that our recording has integrity and that everybody can hear what's happening. And the last piece here, even though it's kind of, pragmatic and maybe a little bit too paternalistic, but what's underneath that of, bringing your full awareness here, closing your windows, turning off your notifications, is that I invite you to be here as though something's at stake. Something you care about, whether it's your organization, whether it's your purpose, but to listen and to interact in a way of, bringing your full self to this conversation. Because there is going to be content, but really this is an invitation to think deeply about your organization and how you can unlock flourishing at scale. So let's dive in. I'm going to share a little bit about my journey, how I came to this question of flourishing and purpose. And I'm just going to take myself off the screen share for a second. So can you all see me all right now? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
That's great.
So I began my life in a very kind of traditional way in the Midwest. There wasn't a lot of talk of purpose or values for that matter. It was pretty much make a lot of money, and to do that you got to go to a good school, marry your high school sweetheart, move to the suburbs, and then go die in Florida. That was kind of the deal. And that didn't seem right to me. It didn't seem like that's what we were put here to do, just to kind of get by, or just to kind of keep the cycle of life going, which there's a biological purpose in doing that, but there was more that I could feel and sense. But nobody around me was really doing it. I had a few wild and crazy aunts who were like really on purpose, like creatively self-expressed. But the adults I saw, they weren't alive inside. They weren't like, yeah, like I am so fired up about selling insurance or, building the next building or bulldozing a forest for a strip mall. Like they weren't like, yeah, this is me. This is what it means to be me in the world. Work was just something that they did. And as I began my career, first in investment banking and venture capital, then with startups, even though I was highly engaged, like learning a lot, working my tail off, I'm looking around, I'm looking up, I'm like, I don't want to be like any of these people. I don't want their life. Like this just seems profoundly unimaginative. Nobody was flourishing. Maybe there were some jokes over beers after work, but like nobody was like, yes, this is what it means to be a human being. I've claimed what is mine to do in the world, and I'm doing it. So in my late 20s, I started to feel really dissatisfied with this approach, and started to ask the questions like, okay, what is my purpose? What does it mean to have a career that expresses my deeper devotions? What does it mean to leave the world a better place? And I started to, kind of like pull the threads, and I threw myself in a number of personal development programs. So this actually began when I was in New York, at Columbia Business School. And this is after like basically 10 years of being a one-dimensional, traditional business guy, ignorant, entitled, privileged. I mean, I tried to break every rule I could get away with. And by the time I was 27, I'd been in jail in 6 different states because I was just nuts on partying. But as I started to get into my late 20s, I'm like, okay, this can't continue. There has to be something real here. And moved from New York to the Bay Area and just threw myself into all things personal and spiritual development. Did a bunch of landmark work, therapy, meditation, going to India, Burning Man, hallucinogens, workshops, gurus. And while they all kind of danced around the edges of purpose, none of them really kind of went into the heart of it. And that's when I met a guy who called himself a purpose guide. And I had no idea what that meant. But that's his training. That's his job, is to help individuals discover their purpose. And those 6 months that I spent with him were hands down the most pivotal, transformational, and just eye-opening. I just saw that, like, yes, okay, this is great for me, but this can't just be a Brandon thing. Like, everybody needs this. Everybody needs to come alive. Really kind of have those wild eyes, be like, yes, I know what is mine to do in the world. I know the impact I'm out to cause. And so I started to build a movement around it, connecting with my colleagues like Gabriel. We built the Global Purpose Leaders, collecting the research, the science of purpose, writing a few books. I'll share a little bit more about that. Actually, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen here. Oop. Give me just a moment. Not seamless. And started bringing this work into larger and larger contexts, a lot of places where you might not expect it to be. So working with folks like the U.S. Marine Corps, working with churches, working in high growth startups, bringing this work into large technology companies and nonprofits. And so I've been inside this question for a very long time. How do we make this available to everybody? And Gabriel and I have a number of colleagues who are bringing this into schools, who are bringing this into churches, who are really looking at every aspect of human society and saying, how can we have this place be a purpose-friendly environment? And in January of this year, I talked with my friend Aaron Hurst at Imperative about joining his team. And so I spent 4 months at Imperative, and that's where I got 2 kind of key things from that experience. I saw that in order for people to flourish, in order for their purpose to really come alive, their organization has to pull for it. They have to acknowledge its value, cultivate it, develop it. And I also saw that the way to do that most quickly is by combining proven purpose discovery exercises, some of which you'll find in my books, with peer coaching. And I'll share a little bit more about that in a second. It's different than mentoring or life coaching. It's actually peers helping each other activate their purpose. So that's me. I want to learn a little bit about you all. So we're going to all take ourselves off mute, and I want to know your name, location, and what does the word flourishing mean to you? And just a sentence or two. So here we go, stopping the share again. So I'm just going to call on some folks. Helene, would you mind sharing your name, location, and what flourishing means to you?
Okay, my name is Helene Alberg, Alberg for you. I live in Stockholm, Sweden. I work as an organizational consultant, and I'm trying to pursue a purpose-driven business over here. So I'm just starting up that. Flourishing for me is bringing my whole self to work and build my potential or live my potential at work and be able to share my gifts to the world and help people raise their consciousness. That was a long sentence.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks.
And let's go with Stephanie. So this is my wife, by the way. Very biased.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Here, I'll quickly just say hi. I'm sitting in the living room now. Hello. My name's Stephanie Steidel. I am the lucky wife of Brandon Peel. I have been doing business coaching for purpose-driven businesses And I'm actually in the current process of possibly rebranding and shifting how I do that or how I fulfill on my own purpose. It might not be a huge pivot, but I'm in that inquiry right now. And where I'm at is San Diego, of course. And flourishing for me, you know, honestly, the first word that comes to mind is like ease and flow. You know, when we're flourishing, we're able to, you know, when we're not in survival, when we're not in worry and anxiety and things are working, we can have ease and fun and flow. And that's where great ideas happen. That's where miracles and magic happens. So that's what that means for me.
Thank you. Beatrice.
Hi, everybody. My name is B. Bocalandro, and I'm in Orange County, California, in San Clemente. Not too far from you guys, I think, Brandon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I'm reading your book right now, so congrats, actually. Well done.
Thank you.
So my definition of flourishing is a little, it's a little bureaucratic and maybe nerdy, because I help organizations bring social purpose, what I call doing good for others, to every job. So it's very related to obviously what you're doing, which is I'm very excited to learn even more. So I think it was Jane Dutton at University of Michigan. Is she the one that started using it in the organizational sense? So as soon as she, at least that's how I encountered the word flourishing in this context. And I was so relieved because I thought, enough with the employee engagement, you know. Like, I just thought the whole engagement concept was really flawed. So I was really happy when she was talking about it's not enough to be engaged, you should be flourishing. So anyway, it's a very long way of saying I don't have my own independent thought on this. I think her definition, I'm kind of plagiarizing from her. But I think it would probably be summarized something as being both healthy and, you know, with inhabiting a lot of wellness as an individual and contributing to something bigger.
Love it. Love it. That's critical. Let's see. Let's go Gabriel.
Yeah, so try to ignore the background noise. Apologies in advance. So when I hear the word flourishing, I think of different scales. I think of flourishing people, like Martin Seligman's flourishing model, the PERMA model, positive emotions, relationships, meaning and purpose, sense of accomplishment. And I think of flourishing people requiring, you can't just flourish on your own. You need to be in a flourishing, or you don't, let's take away the way need, but your flourishing is somewhat bound up in the flourishing of the systems that you're a part of, like your community or your organization, and our planet. And so, you know, flourishing people, organizations, and planet are kind of my go-to, or flourishing people, communities, and planet is my go-to, where my brain goes when you say flourishing.
Love it, Gabriel. That reminds me of that Martin Luther King quote about, like, it's something about we're tied together in a fabric of mutual destiny or something of that nature. I know I'm butchering it, but I'll find it. I'll send it to y'all. Beautiful. And then I think, who else is on the line? We have Raphael in New York.
Yeah. Hey. Yeah. I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm in New York, and I have a kind of a similar background to Brandon. I spent, give or take, 20 years doing banking, doing private equity, working like a lunatic. And, you know, one fine day, my prayers were listened, and I was laid off from work. That happened last October. And frankly, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. I felt finally, after a long time, freed. I felt happy. And since then, I've been sort of trying to reinvent myself. Since I was laid off, it was very clear to me that I had no intention of going back to the banking world, dealing with egomaniacs, I made good money, but that was clearly not the way to happiness. I'm a happy now stay-at-home dad. Been spending a lot of time with my 2 daughters, and it's been fantastic. So finally, I decided that what I want to do is start to create a small import business of wine here into the tri-state area in New York. You know, to me, wine is associated to laying back, enjoying life. Wine is a product that is constantly challenging you to become better. And at the end of the day, I think that's the purpose in life of everyone, becoming a better person. And that to me is thriving. And, you know, so that's the reason I ended up in this call. You know,
Wonderful.
Trying to get deeper into what is the purpose of life. How do you become a better person? Because that's the only way, in my mind at least, to becoming a happy, full person, right? And being able to give to those around you.
Great. Thank you. And then Marlon, what does
Hi.
flourishing mean to you?
Yes, hi. Nice to meet you, everyone. Yes, my name is Marlene. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. And yeah, same for me. I was laid off last September, and this was from a very non-flourishing position. And I'm still in the process of establishing myself in a way that is so that I can flourish. And to me, flourishing means being in alignment with myself, and when everything is in alignment, when I'm in alignment, there's harmony that is within myself, that is within my my community, and with what I do, it impacts everything that who I am, what I do, and my presence in the world.
Beautiful. Thank you, Marlon. Well, I think we're starting to kind of circle the wagons here on a shared vision here, where we do have that inner outer. Oh, there we go. We do have that inner outer alignment, where we know who we are, what is our work to do, and that's showing up in our organizations. And it's like, you know, as Gabriel was sharing, like my flourishing is tied up in yours. So let's get into these 5 keys of what it actually takes to activate flourishing in an organization. Well, first of all, let's just acknowledge that we're not flourishing. I mean, there's some mostly white people in a few cities that are doing really well, but most of us are pretty much on the ropes. We're poor, we're unhealthy, we're stressed, and we're not aligned. We're not fulfilled by what it is that we're doing at work. And I don't know about you, but when I was raised to think that this was a great country, and this is where, you know, it was better than any place else. And I'm not saying that needs to be the case or anything like that, but when I look at these numbers, I'm like, gosh, we took a wrong turn somewhere. Like there's got to be something that we could be doing differently that's going to have us all flourish. So it's my firm contention that like we can flourish as a country, we can flourish as individuals, as organizations, and that the key to that is purpose. And so I'm just citing a few stats here from the scienceofpurpose.org. But on the individual level, we're better leaders, we're more loyal, we make more money, and we have more wealth when we activate purpose in our lives and our careers. At the organizational level, as I've shared before, like you make $9,000 per person per year. And the collective financial result is you're growing faster, 3 times the average, and you're outperforming the S&P by 15 to 1. Now, flourishing, as many of you noted, is not just a work thing. When that inner light gets turned on, we become more curious. We're twice as likely to learn something new each day. We become more involved. We become members and stewards of our community. And we have an increased orientation towards diversity. I started to share a little bit about this before we began, but when that light gets lit, we stop seeing surface level differences as that important, really. We start to just see people as beautiful human beings who've got a purpose, who've got a soul, who are here to make their highest contribution. And it also shows up really beautifully in our bodies. So when that inner alignment turns on, that kind of software upgrade, when we get our purpose and we start to activate it, we start to live longer. And the theory behind this is, and there's a lot more studies that kind of support this at sciencepurpose.org, is that when people know their purpose, they have lower levels of cortisol, which is the stress hormone that ages us. And we have stronger cellular tissues and stronger DNA telomeres. So we're not destroying our bodies with stress, and this is despite what the circumstances are. So we've got some pretty messed up circumstances in this country right now. And those of us who are connected to our purpose know who we are in response to it. We know what is ours to do. And our psychology improves. We're more likely to be content, fulfilled, and our relationships. I mean, this is something that's just kind of blows my mind a little bit. But people who know their purpose, with all else being equal, are regarded as more attractive, they have better sex, and they're more likely to be in love. So these are some of the fruits that await us on this journey. So I invite you all to just kind of close your eyes for a second. Imagine yourself waking up in the morning, no alarm. You turn to that special someone, give them a kiss on the cheek, tell them you love them. You begin your morning routine of self-care. Maybe there's some writing or some reading or some exercise, some prayer, meditation perhaps. And when you're ready, you walk out the door and go to your organization. You go there your favorite way. Let's say it's get on your bike, or you go for a walk, or hop on a train. And when you walk in the door, you see your favorite people. People who you know really well, who are there because they want to be there. It could be other places. They want to be there. They can make more money doing other things, but they want to be there. They love what they're doing. They love what the organization is about. And throughout the day, you get to do the things that bring you most alive. For some of you, that might mean creative work, could be working with a team, creating a new future, a new solution. Could be researching the things that you find most interesting. You have time to eat, time to enjoy some nature. And when the day's done, in a very generous hour, say 5 or 6, you get back on your bike or back on your train or start walking home. And you connect with the people you love most. You're so full. You have been filled up by your day. Maybe you make a meal, maybe you go out to a play or a concert or invite some friends over for dinner. And as it comes time to go to bed, as your head hits the pillow, this wave of gratitude comes over you, washes through you. So this is actually what it means and what it feels like to flourish. Now I want to go into the organizational piece of this, because this is the part where most of us spend 40 or 50 hours a week. So go ahead and open your eyes. Come on back. Organizations can sink or swim depending on the level of flourishing that people are experiencing. And there's, as I'm reviewing the research of my colleagues and other academics about what it actually takes to flourish in an organization, I found some commonalities, and I synthesized them into the 5 keys to a flourishing organization. So first is deep purpose. I want to make some distinctions here between what is shallow purpose and deep. First of all, does anyone recognize the man on the right?
No.
So that's Yvon Chouinard, the founder of Patagonia.
Oh, right on.
And obviously we know what that is on the left, right? So shallow purpose is basically declaring you're going to win at somebody else's game. Okay, I want to be rich. I'm going to go be rich. I want to build casinos, put my name on them. I'm going to do that. I'm going to be number one in my industry. I'm going to be the world's best dad. I'm going to have the most Pez dispensers. You know, you look out there, you say, well, that looks like a good purpose. I'll go do that. Now, a deep purpose emerges internally from your truest, most cherished values and devotions. So for Yvon, that's easy. He loves the outdoors. He loves climbing. He loves being with his friends, pushing himself and his body up against nature. And as he started to think about, well, okay, how could I have a life and a career where everything would fit, where everything would be cohesive and organic? That's how Patagonia was born. And for those of you who know about Patagonia, which I assume is most, they've continued to innovate, but not from a place of like, where can we make the most money, but how can we live our values even more deeply? They got things like traceable down and recyclable products, and I forget what the name of the campaign, but it's like Wear Forever or something like that. They made a documentary about it where they encourage people to only buy their products once, and then as soon as they start to show wear, bring them back and they recycle them, turn them into new products. So it comes from a deeper place. Now, if you've been following the news media or the business media, you've seen that kind of purpose has become pretty mainstream. A lot of people are talking about it. Not a lot of people know exactly what it is, but they're like, oh, well, this seems to be a good thing. Millennials seem to want it. Our customers seem to care about it, so maybe we'll put up a new ad campaign or something like that. But deep purpose is different because it's actually revealed. It is revealed. Like a revelation. And this can happen through, working with a guide like I did, or taking a program or some other kind of transformative modality, or it can just happen in a moment. And when you see something that violates who you are, your values, and you feel compelled to devote your life to fixing it. So when that inner knowledge comes up, you have a choice. You could ignore it, go back to the matrix, or you can start to align. And over time, people definitely align. It becomes increasingly expensive for them. But what I mean by expensive is emotionally and psychologically expensive for them to not live their purpose. So they start to align their life with it, their career with it, and it kind of becomes like their best friend. It's like their guide. So when they're at any precipice, they say, okay, well, what does my purpose command that I do here? And that's really kind of the saving grace. It saves people, business people, organization people, from having to boil the ocean to figure out what's next, to hire McKinsey or whatever. They say, no, okay, well, this is aligned with our purpose. We're going to do that. And the last piece is that this actually is what fulfillment means, where you know who you are, your life and career are aligned with it, and you feel you can trust your inner guidance. And I love this quote here from this Harvard Business Review from August of 2018. You do not invent a higher purpose. It already exists. You discover it through empathy. So that revelation is very much understanding what you really care about, what's in your heart. And it's the same thing at the organizational level. Organizations get clear on what they're really devoted to, and then they align their organization around that. So one of the things that I loved about my work at Imperative was that they really quantified it. So that, the vast majority of people, by a factor of 2 to 1, want to be fulfilled versus engaged. It's not that engagement is bad. It's just that they prefer to have their purpose come to work with them. They don't want to be really busy doing something they don't care about. Now, you might think that engagement and fulfillment or fulfillment is just a new engagement, in the way that engagement is the new productivity. But what do you see here? What's the difference? How do people hold engagement and fulfillment differently? By the way, this is from the Imperative 2018 workforce study. They asked over 1,000 people what these words mean to them. So what do you see? I'll call on you.
More emotions on fulfillment than on engagement. It's more active. It's more doing things in engagement.
Mm-hmm.
Goes deeper.
Yeah. Start to speak to a little bit more like what it means to be a human being doing something, right?
I see being on the right under fulfillment and doing on the left under engagement.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. When we're talking about fulfillment, we're talking about humans. When we're talking about engagement, I mean, first time I heard engagement was when I learned how to drive a stick shift. It's gears, it's machines. We need to engage the gear, make the cogs work. And so, when I left business school, I would check in with my friends and say, hey, how's it going at McKinsey? How's it going at Goldman? Like, oh, I'm super engaged. Oh man, just so busy. Yeah, it's great. I'm like, really? Is that really great? Is that what it means to be you right now? Is to be like busy? But as I shared, people, they don't mind being engaged, but they want to be fulfilled, and they're not mutually exclusive. You can be both, but fulfillment definitely brings that human element into play. Now, where I discovered a new piece of my purpose, as I shared earlier at Imperative, was that if we don't fix this purpose at work problem, we're screwed. Because if people are not fulfilled, not bringing their whole self, their purpose into the office, they have a 1% chance of being fulfilled in life. Now, that just, like, it saddens me, that angers me that this is what's true. That so many folks, 2/3 of folks are not fulfilled. They're not fulfilled at work, and they're not fulfilled in life. So we've got to fix this. I would feel shame as an organization leader if there was one person in my organization that wasn't fulfilled. I'm like, oh my God, they have a shitty life. What kind of leader am I that I create the conditions for my people to have a crappy life? Now, what are these organizations actually doing to activate deep purpose? So there's 3 key components, and a beautiful example of this is Eileen Fisher of Eileen Fisher Clothing, probably one of the most progressive, not politically necessarily, but one of the most flourishing forward companies I've ever heard of, where they ensure that everyone brings their full self to work, their purpose is activated, and that the company has a purpose that's inspiring and organic to the founders. And the last piece is that once everyone knows their purpose and the organization has declared its organic purpose, that each person on that team knows their unique expression of their organization's purpose and values. So basically, their job is an extension and expression of who they really are. So that's the first key, deep purpose. Without that, there's no such thing as flourishing. Second is dignity. Now, again, Yvonne Chouinard is probably one of the earliest voices in this. It's where we recognize that these are grown-ass adults who have autonomy, who have dreams, who have something to share, a message to give. And we stand for that. We create a culture that allows that whole person to show up, to bring their highest self into the office. And so it's not just standing for it. It's not a wish. We actually empower each other. Like, hey, I noticed you did this, and I know that your purpose is X. Is that really what you want to do? So there's a warrior edge here. This isn't just a kumbaya circle. We're actually taking a fierce stand for people in our organizations. Like, I see something bigger and better for you. Will you step into that future? Now, it's not just the soft stuff. We can't have dignity. We can't flourish unless we've created economic structures and governance structures that allow people to actually feel this way, to feel autonomous, to feel like their whole self is welcome, to feel empowered to bring their purpose to work and to stand for the purpose of their team. So we have to pay a living wage. Now, I'm going to be really specific on my definition of this, because I think it's all this $15 an hour stuff. Yeah, great. If rent was $300 a month, that would be a living wage. But for most people, it's not. So a living wage, as I define it, is where everyone in your organization is compensated such that they can afford to support a family of 4, working 40 hours a week with less than 30 minutes of commute. So suddenly, what it means to flourish means you have to take a broader stand for the community, for the political environment, for public transportation, for affordable housing, for all these things. The company is not just the company. The company is its interdependent society and ecosystem. And oftentimes, dignity shows up as a generous parental leave, where each parent gets at least 6 months. And because autonomy is present, there's no such thing as, okay, you only get 2 weeks vacation or 3 weeks vacation. No, take the vacation you want. Whatever you need. You are the commander, the sovereign of your ship. If you want 6 weeks vacation and you can still deliver and be a part of a thriving, flourishing organization, you take 6 weeks vacation. And the result is that people feel cared for. They feel safe. Like, okay, I'm making enough money. My whole self is welcome here. And I can say anything. I don't have to sit on my best and worst ideas. I don't have to worry about offending the CEO's delicate ego. I can say anything to anyone. I can have the uncomfortable conversation because all of me is welcome. It has to be done skillfully. You don't get to call people names or slander them, but say what's true for you. What's true in your heart. And that's what dignity looks like in the organization. So the third is integrity. So I'm going to explain this in just kind of 2 ways. One is the individual integrity, which many of you are probably already expert practitioners in. That's where you relate to your word as sacred. So if your word is about to be broken or is broken, you clean it up. And we put in place structures such that our word isn't broken again. And we look for where we're out of integrity on a periodic basis. Now, this could be with a coach, a circle, could be a process that we engage in regularly in the organization. Where are we out of integrity with our agreements and with our purpose and values? So the result is that at the individual level, we're not just talking about sovereignty as like a nice thing, but like, no, actually everybody here, when they say they're going to do something, it gets done. And if it can't be, which, circumstances do change, and oftentimes we can't deliver on our word, we clean it up and we put something new in place. So that's what the individuals do. At the organization level, really what this means is to stand for wholeness. So integrity basically means undivided, whole, and complete. So an organization that stands for wholeness has a stakeholder orientation where they conduct business in a way that honors the dignity of the environment, their customers, their surrounding community, their teams, and they're transparent about it. Now, this could mean you're a B Corp and you do the annual B Corp audit, or you have CSR or triple bottom line accounting. But for an organization to flourish, they have to be in integrity. You can't be hurting people unnecessarily. And you can't be saying one thing and doing another. So the individual and the organization level, they're saying and doing the same thing. So the fourth key here is equity. Now, you can probably imagine from the discussion on dignity that, we're not talking about creating white nationalism here. Because if we stand for dignity, we stand for all people's dignity. So it means that equity is not just going to happen by accident. That the leadership and the strategy has to be courageous. Oftentimes it shows up as a 5-year plan to have a board, a leadership team, an entire organization that reflects the community. So for most places, that's what I call a 50-30 plan, where at least half of your board, your leadership, and your organization are women, and that 30% of your board, your leadership, and your organization are people of color. Then there's other numbers we can put in here around ability, around sexual preference or sexual orientation. But it's like you declared it. You're like, okay, we're solving this problem. And it's not that this doesn't come from a moralistic place. This comes from a place that we can't flourish unless everybody is included. And there's a lot of good business reasons for this. Organizations that have more women board directors and leadership in leadership positions do better. Organizations where there's more diversity in every team, they tend to be more creative, more productive. The thing is, this, again, it doesn't happen by accident. We have to put in programs for self-advocacy where everybody, regardless of their background, feels comfortable to advocate for themselves, where they can say anything. And it means those of us, like myself, straight white males, but really all of us, actively bring to light and explore our unconscious biases. When I was raised, tall, rich, white guy, went to good schools, and this is in Chicago, where everything around me was racist, sexist, homophobic. And it's part of my culture. It's not the part I'm proud of, but it's part of my culture. So ongoingly, as a leader, I submit to diversity unconscious bias training because you're never done with it. I mean, we'll know when we're done with it when every organization is 50-30. And the last is trust. Kind of similar to what I shared around equity. If you have an organization that is pro-purpose, if you have an organization where they are their word, if you have an organization where the leadership, the board, the whole organization is reflective of the broader community, people are going to trust that you say what you mean and you mean what you say. They're going to trust that it's safe to join your company. You're going to trust that you're doing the best you can to deliver your product or service. So what does this mean underneath the hood? So in addition to everything we described in the first 4 keys, it means that radical vulnerability is the primary expression of leadership, meaning all the leaders are showing up, warts and all, ritualistically slicing and dicing their ego on display, making all their ugliness, their pettiness, their selfishness, their dim-wittedness public. So similar to integrity, they're saying, hey, listen, I screwed up. And I'm ashamed, and I'm saddened by the impacts. This also means that because we have this holistic orientation, this orientation towards integrity and wholeness, is that we cannot be apolitical. Patagonia is a beautiful example of this with their Bears Ears initiative, giving back their Trump tax breaks to environmental organizations. And they're basically saying we're standing for a different world. And that means taking to task our leaders when they act out of the best interests of the whole. So a flourishing organization is endemically a political organization. I realize that creates some tax consequences for nonprofits and religious organizations, but needless to say, we have to stand for this larger holistic expression of flourishing. So the other key pieces of trust are that internally, there are no secrets. All internal company information is made public to the entire company. That's including salaries, compensation structures, cap tables. Everything is publicly available to the folks in that organization. And publicly, there is no IP. There's nothing proprietary that that organization does. Because if you are on purpose, if you are about a change in the world, your organization, there's no reason to hoard it. And we've seen this time and time again with organizations like Mercedes-Benz and Tesla, who make their entire patent library public domain. Because for Mercedes-Benz to pioneer airbags and to keep it for Mercedes-Benz cars, that's tens of thousands of lives a year. And Patagonia feels the same way. They're like, hey, we invented this process for traceable down. We want everyone to do it. And Tesla the same way. Hey, we have these really kick-ass batteries. We think everybody should be making them. So that's what enables a consumer, an investor, a prospective team member to trust this is a good place with good people living their values. So I'm going to pause right there and see if there's any questions, comments. Take this off of sharing. Well, what comes up for you when you hear these 5 keys, folks?
I have to head out soon because I have a 2 o'clock call, so I wanted to check in. My initial thought was, and I'm just going to be pretty brass here, not a lot of people have the balls to do that. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's going to really take something, I expect resistance. Yeah. Because it really shifts the paradigm and it requires vulnerability and putting your neck out there. But when you see it, it's super inspiring. And so I would hope that someone that wants a flourishing organization would want to be on the side of inspiring versus the side of status quo.
Yeah.
Because those stats are pretty scary.
Yeah, it's horrific. And this, you bring up a really good point. And this is a big challenge, especially with publicly traded organizations who have quarterly earnings to report on and boards and giant, tens of hundreds of billions of dollars of bonus packages riding on the status quo. So it's my firm conviction that this movement is going to be led by small, medium-sized businesses. That it's founder owners who relate to their business as a family business. Even if their family doesn't work there, they relate to it as like, these are my people. I want what's best for them, and what's best for them is what's best for our organization. So it definitely takes a courageous leader or a series or a group of leaders to do that. It's not for everyone. What else comes up for y'all?
I have a reflection. I'm not sure if you've heard of a book called Reinventing Organizations by Frederick Laloux.
Yes.
Where he talks about teal companies, and that's exactly what you are talking about. And I'm actually running the Teal for Teal network here in Sweden, and I can see that it's gaining momentum here. We have a lot of, as you say, small to middle-sized companies that are working in this way, and it's really interesting to see how good it works. And they are prosperous, and they are fulfilled and flourishing, and it's so dramatic differences from the traditional companies here. But I just want more people to dare to take that leap. So I agree, we need courageous leaders. And I think that's where the big challenge is. Where do we find the courageous leaders? But well, I can suggest looking back a year and a half, it's really increased how many are trying this way and how good it works. Here in Sweden, at least.
Beautiful, Helene. I'm a big fan of Frederick Laloux's work, and those I actually really want to learn more about this Sweden teal cabal you have. If you have resources or case studies, because I think it's, one of the great things about that book is it showed all these big companies doing it.
Yeah.
But there aren't that many like super big private companies. Most of them are 10 to 50 employees, and like the more that we can show that this is the real thing,
yeah,
the more people are gonna be like, oh, I can do that. And
I agree. Yeah.
now, to answer your question, like where do we find that courageous leader? My contention is that it's like a Russian nesting doll. That courageous leader is in every single leader.
Exactly.
They probably were courageous previously, but then whatever circumstances caught up. So I think in a sense, it's on us as change agents to say, that your legacy has got to be bigger than your golden parachute. That you did not come here to hoard wealth for the few while the many suffer. And I've seen it more with actually women leaders where they call powerful men to like into their sovereign kingship. They're like, hey, you're better than this. And it's on us to inspire that and to bring that warrior energy. Be like, okay, fine, go ahead and ravish the environment and your people, but all of your competitors who I'm talking to are going to be doing this.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
You just need to encourage them to take off the overcoat of all this facade work that they have, so to speak.
So I unfortunately, we don't have time for more comments. I'm just going to run through a couple other slides and we'll complete here because I want to be respectful of all of your time. All right. Oh. So I want to share with you like how Elevate, my company, thinks about this. So once we have a courageous leader that says, okay, I love my people, let's do this thing. It's pretty straightforward. And the first piece begins with understanding that this is not a quick fix. This is like the latest app on mindfulness or the latest incentive program or the hottest consultant or the newest tech is not going to unlock flourishing. I heard someone once say that culture can't be put in a microwave. It's got to be put in the slow cooker. And so that's the approach that my friends at Imperative take. It's the approach I'm committed to as well, where we move folks through a series of 6-week modules. One is getting clarity on your purpose. The second is aligning your life with it. And the third is activating it at work. And the fourth is finding your unique expression of the organization's purpose and values, such that you stand as a leader of that organization, regardless of your title. You see that this is the place where your purpose gets to live. Now, having led a bunch of transformation programs and purpose activation programs, I know you can't shotgun transformation. You need to take breaks. So the way that I've broken this up is that we have 4 6-week modules with a 6-week break in between, where there's some very light fulfillment journaling, and then the next module. So that first year is a deeper exploration and activation of your purpose at work. Also, by the time you're complete, you'll have had peer coaching conversations with 8 different people. So you're going to have 8 deep relationships in that company. Now, the way that each module works is that you're going to have one short exercise, 10 to 20 minutes, and a 30-minute peer coaching conversation, where you get to explore what you got from the exercise, activate it, and get to know your peer even more intimately. Now, it's critical here that the leaders begin this first. So the Elevate pathway has the leaders start, and then 3 months later, the rest of the organization jumps in. Because it's important that the leaders are walking the talk, or I should say, able to express what they're getting out of it to everybody who's doing it. Just want to say a little bit about peer coaching, because it's not mentorship, it's not life coaching, it's not executive coaching. You're not giving advice. It's more along the lines of appreciative inquiry, where you ask a series of questions based on whatever that week's exercise is to help that person discover it more, activate it more. And the result, and this recently came out, my friends at Imperative, is that when people engage in peer coaching, they see a massive improvement in collaboration, that they feel they have a positive impact, that they grow, they're discovering that purpose-filled or that purpose-aligned fulfillment, and they're starting to even perform better. You know, as we shared earlier with the Better Up study, that that performance yields $9,100 per employee per year. Now, how do you start? It's pretty simple. The senior leader in that organization has a one-hour conversation with me. And in that conversation, they'll see where they are with respect to flourishing, whether they're a traditional organization, or they're on their way up, or they actually are flourishing. And they'll get a customized flourishing ROI, which shows them what they'll invest and what they'll get back over the course of a year, 2 years, 3 years. They'll be asked new questions that they've likely never been asked before to reflect on their leadership and culture, and come away with immediate actions, like stuff they will do on Monday. Like, okay, I'm going to talk to this person, or I'm going to schedule another conversation with Brandon, whatever it is. So if you want to learn more about that, you can go to the Elevate website, but I'm actually going to drop a couple links here in the chat real quick. Actually, I'll do that in a second. And that's where you can go learn about this flourishing assessment and schedule it. And as a thank you for sticking with it, for being a part of this conversation, I'm giving each of you a copy of my audiobook, Planet on Purpose. Again, this is the link here. I'm going to drop both of them now in the chat. So I'm stopping my share. Just one moment. And this first one is the that I just shared. Oh, share it to everyone. There we go. Try it again. All right, there we go. So that first one is how to learn more about the flourishing assessment, and the second one is the audiobook. So I want to thank you all for being a part of this conversation, and please send me a note. Let me know how it went for you, and we'll continue the revolution towards a more flourishing world.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brandon.
My pleasure.
Great.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Take care. Great to connect.